Welcome on in, members of the chapter. This is Brews and Studs, and in this video, I am going to address two different questions. The first question is, where the hell are the Horus Heresy action figure reviews? Well, that is a very good question, and my answer to that is, well, I'm going to say that the Horus Heresy action figure reviews are going to be fairly few and far between. I can honestly say that I am going to be focusing in on pretty much special characters as well as the Primarchs. The next question you may ask is, why is that the case? And my response to you is that there are a few different reasons. First of all, during the holiday season, I released a video talking about action figures and collections and keeping collections in check. And I mentioned a few things specifically with regards to having the money, having the space, and whether you like or love an action figure or not. So in the instance of the Horus Heresy, I can honestly say that I probably kind of like most of the action figures. So that actually precludes me from getting an action figure because right now I need to actually love an action figure in order for me to get it. And the action figures I love are obviously going to be the Primarchs and the special characters that I mentioned before. I unfortunately find the designs of the MK5 armor to be and really archaic, and I know that is exactly what Games Workshop decided to do. They want to make those kind of armors feel archaic because they are, well, 10,000 years behind in design. So I know that is a purposeful thing. The second thing I also talked about in that video was space. Currently, I have an extreme lack of space. Well, look at my shelf right now. It looks like it's going to explode with Marines. In fact, I can't even display my Deathwing Terminators due to the lack of space. And don't get me wrong, I really do love those action figures. So there is absolutely no reason why I would buy and try to display Horus Heresy action figures when my priority is going to be the Warhammer 40K action figures. So these are the main reasons why you won't see many Horus Heresy action figures on this channel, which I know that you're going to be very disappointed in, and I'm sorry. But don't get me wrong, I am absolutely excited with the reveal of Horus Ascended, as well as his right-hand man Abaddon, before he was known as the Spoiler. The second question I am going to be trying to answer in this video is size creep. So let's talk about size creep that is happening as insidious as a Gene Stealer cult invasion in the recent JoyToy line of Space Marines. So it was recently announced that the next batch of Space Marines that are going to be released in 40K are going to be from the Leviathan box. And that box set introduced the release of the 10th edition of Warhammer 40K. So in response to that box release, JoyToy has decided to release the Librarian, the Captain, the Terminators, as well as the Sternguard veterans from that set. However, I have been reading on the interwebs that people have been very disappointed with the size increase of the Librarian, Captain, as well as the Terminators, and I suppose rightfully so. All three of these action figures stand in at about 5.6 inches. So back in the day when the Ultramarines Terminators as well as the Blood Angels Assault Terminators were released, they were only 5.3 inches, which I suppose was appropriate size compared to the regular Primaris Space Marines that were released right around that time. Then you have the jaw-dropping mountain of a man, which goes by the name of Arjak Rockfist, and he stands at a towering 5.5 inches, but I understand why he is tall because he's naturally like that, and plus he's a special character, so you want these special characters to be bigger than life. And then the Deathwing Knights as well as the Deathwing Terminators, they stand in at around 5.4 inches, which is about 0.1 inches taller than the Blood Angels as well as the Ultramarines Terminators. So indeed, we are seeing a slow but steady size creep that is happening. What do I really think about this size creep? Well, unlike some people on the internet, I really don't have that much of an opinion on the size creep, in which I will explain in a second. So the last action figures that are slated to be released from the Leviathan box by JoyToy are the Stern Guard veterans, and these are listed at most websites at 4.8 inches. By comparison, their closest brethren, which are the Vanguard veterans, they stand in at about 4.76 inches tall, which isn't really that bad. As more of a comparison, your regular Primaris Intercessor stands in about 4.75 inches, so it appears that the size creep with the regular Primaris MK10 Armored Space Marines is very, very minimal, which is nice to hear. So why did I say that I really didn't care too much about the size creep? Well, if you look at the human population in general, there is a very wide range of heights. You know, at the short end of the spectrum, you have adults that are, 4 foot something inches tall. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have basketball players that stand in at 7 foot plus something tall. So human heights are varied, and they definitely follow a bell curve, with, I'm guessing, the median human height as to be somewhere around 5 foot 5, 6, 7 inches or something like that. So if we apply this naturally occurring thing to Space Marine size, who's to say that there cannot be size differences amongst the Space Marines, right? I believe that each Space Marine gene seed can vary, so you can see size differences amongst the Space Marines. So that's why I don't really care too much about the size differences. Now, what can we do about these size differences? Well, I have 4 different solutions for you, some better than the other. The first solution is that you can embrace the different sizes, which means that you can opt to display all these different size Space Marines on the same shelf, which is probably the route that I'm going to go. Now, option 2 is going to take that up a notch and say that why don't you display everything on the same shelf, except have the shorter Space Marines on like risers, and then have the taller Space Marines in front, so that can actually balance out the size difference. The third option is, well, you can choose to segregate these action figures. So what I mean by that is you can put the Leviathan, Terminator, Librarian, as well as the Captain on a different shelf versus the rest of the action figures, which can be on a lower shelf than that. But that's if you have space, and we all know that space is at a premium. And the fourth option is to stick your middle finger to JoyToy and say, oh, I am not going to buy any of these action figures based on principle. Every single one of these Space Marines need to be an equal height. I will not tolerate this. Which, again, some people may do, which I think is not exactly the best way of going about this business. Those were the 2 things that I want to address in this video. Please let me know in the comment section what you think about them, especially the size creep and what you're going to do to try to mitigate this. And as usual, I'll see you all in the next one.